as a. So the third part is how I start to interact. So, and these are the five, what I call the five principles of co-creation. So this is how I generate energy for personal growth and to manifest God's goodness into the world. There's no word in English which describes this grouping of how one say ways of being. They're not attitudes. I call them the heart to give, the heart to having the heart to appreciate, the heart to learn from challenges, the heart to forgive, and the heart to keep learning. Okay, so these are, and where are they based on? Well, it comes in the principle, because first we talk about God's nature, the dual characteristic, and then we move on to give and take action, and the principle talks about God enters the world because of the love and beauty dynamic. This is why God wants to create the world and enter into relationship with children. Heavenly parents want to see the goodness that they can manifest externally, and they can somehow generate positive emotions from this. So it says so in the principle section 4.3.1. It says, when two entities form a common base and establish a four-position foundation, they will engage in give and take action. In accomplishing this, the emotional force that the subject partner gives to the object partner is called love, and the emotional force that the object partner returns to the subject partner is called beauty. The purpose of love and beauty is to enable two wholesome beings. The word wholesome is important here, to establish the four-position foundation and realize the purpose of creation. By sharing love and beauty with each other, they join in harmonious oneness. So how do you get harmonious oneness in your relationship? Is through the love and beauty dynamic. And once you catch this, then you can control your ability to regulate this dynamic and be much more in control of it, and say, how do I get back into this love and beauty? Well, not in the love and beauty dynamic right now, but how can I get back in it? Because I want that feeling of harmonious oneness. So let's look at how the principle explores how God creates. So the dynamic that motivates God to enter into relationship with us is the love and beauty. This is what motivates. The ability to see beauty, and he's stimulated by that. Yeah, God is created, and he's stimulated by seeing his ability to create something wonderful, and that is beautiful. And the ability to see beauty is predicated on having a sense of appreciation. If you don't have a sense of appreciation, you can't see the beauty. So beauty can be all around you, and people can be thoroughly depressed because they can't see it. So depression is linked to our ability of people to see to appreciate the goodness that exists. And without appreciation, it's impossible to see beauty. And the principle explains this clearly. It says the word, it's very clear. Huh? And because we are God's children, we use the same dynamic to motivate ourselves. I have love to offer, and I seek beauty, and I can appreciate that beauty. So exactly, and we use this dynamic to create each of the three blessings. The first blessing, if I want to go, I see beauty in playing football. I appreciate that beauty, so I'm going off and learn how to play football. I see beauty in art, and I like doing art, and I see different kinds of beauty, and I appreciate that, so I'm going to go on to study art. I see beauty in building a good family, and I appreciate that beauty, so I'm going to go off and build a good family. And I see beauty in offering something, a service to society, which enriches people's lives, and I appreciate that beauty, so I'm going to stimulate myself. So that stimulates me to go off and build a business or something like this. And this is how human beings work. They search for beauty, and they want that beauty, and they appreciate that beauty. So God can be consistent in giving love, his love, to us fallen human beings, because he has a range of ways to appreciate us. So he can understand the good you are doing and see that and appreciate that. He can see qualities he admires in you, your honesty or your ability to stay away from things that hurt, you, or he sees the good things you've offered in the past, or you helped those people and you were doing this and doing that, and I could admire that and appreciate that. He can appreciate that you've even been through difficult times and you have, but you're still trying to grow, and you're still trying to get through life and create something positive. And he could even admire your future potential, like we do with our children. We know they have future potential, and we wake up in the morning and we admire it, and we say, I'm going to give to you because I want to see that future potential. Okay? So when we learn these different kinds of appreciation for our spouse and for ourselves, but for our spouse, we become a temple of God. We become this temple. And so I had to go, because it wasn't very strong in me when I started my marriage, I went through a process of figuring out all these different types of appreciation. So I had a large appreciation bank in my heart towards my wife, which I could always call upon to say, she's got so many good things, and I like those things, and I admire them. And I'm in love with this beauty. There's so much beauty there. I admire it. And so whenever difficulties come, I can go back to this this appreciation bank, and get through those difficulties quite, reasonably easily. Okay, so beauty comes in different forms for human beings. My wife can look beautiful. She looks more beautiful now than she did when I married her, for sure. She dresses more beautifully, for sure. She's more creative, and I see that's really, I see a form of beauty. I like the truth in her honesty. She's very honest, and she hides nothing from me. I know exactly what's going on with her. Everything. I admire her goodness, the way she ran a kindergarten for 20 years and raised up children, and she raised 4 lovely children, and I admire those processes, and I can look at that. I can enjoy and appreciate the joy we've created together, and I try to remember those things, and I can enjoy, and I enjoy the meaning we are creating together, a meaningful life together. And all these different kinds of beauty can be built into my, core of my being, to say, she's an amazing woman and I love her because of that. Without seeing her beauty, it would be possible for me to love her. So love is connected to beauty. It's the other side. And it allows me to every day to hug and say hello to her and to say, good morning, darling, you're wonderful, because I see her immense level of beauty. Okay? So there are certain times over the years, I mean, it was difficult to keep that, but, I know I'm getting good at it when I can stay like 2 or 3 weeks in this love and beauty dynamics, in this core of like harmonious being. Like I'm just in love with her and nothing disrupts that. She can kind of like start an argument, but I can process it, or she can do this or make a mistake, I can process it, and it just goes in one ear and out the other, and I think, I'm getting good at this. I've learned from the masters in forgiveness. I've learned the masters in understanding difficulties and how you process them. I've learned all these things, and I'm getting quite good at it. And, and this can be so happy that all kinds of chaos, to other people, sometimes when they stay with us, or my children stay, sometimes we look chaotic, but to be honest, I'm always in love, So it's so wonderful. Okay. So of course, marriage educators are all talking about this, because this is the central core through which love is kept alive. All kinds of books and things go into this love and beauty dynamic. So the 5 love languages relate to the love and beauty dynamic. It says, what are the things I can do that will make my partner see the beauty, see beauty? How can I offer love? What is their love language? And how can I do that? And then I can see the joy I create in my partner because I've done something that they specifically like. And he mentioned 5 types of love I might offer, which my partner might appreciate. Praise, I like, do something for me, let's spend time together, gifts and surprises, and touch. So, it's useful. I like certain types of touch. My wife likes other kinds of touch. She really likes a nice massage. She loves a nice massage, and I just love holding hands and 10 hugs a day, and I'm a happy bunny. It's a different kind of touch, and also I would say there's a sixth love language of conversations. My wife is a really important part of our marriage. So this is, we can appreciate each other because we're offering things, offer love that we can get. So there's all kinds of other things going on. So when some marriage educators learn to appreciate and you'll support your marriage partner's goals. Say your goal has to lose weight, or your goal is to study and get a degree. And so we have an idealized self we want to become. We have this, because we're God's children, we want to move forward to becoming God's children. We have an idealized self we want to manifest. And if our partner is supportive of us, either just morally or practically, this really is helpful because we both have unique gifts to offer the world, and we know that. And if our partner's on our side, it's so helpful. And you don't know what your partner will manifest if they're supported eventually. You don't know that until years later. So when we moved to Finland, and my wife said that one day, I'd like to have her at my own kindergarten, we purposely, went out and invested and built and got a kindergarten functioning, and it ran for 16 years. And she really gave her a space to be the kind of teacher where she wanted to be, and I really practically supported her, and she supported my goals too. And it was a rich experience for both of us. So another thing is to see to appreciate the potential in your partner. I found this really important. Like I could see, my wife is weak here and here, but she does, in time, if I love her the right ways, maybe she will manifest these things. So more playfulness, or more, creativity in the way she dresses, or these kind of qualities. If I give her love and encouragement every time she tries to make a step forward. So to appreciate that potential, to say it's actually real right now. It's just in my heart. I can see it in her, and I'm going to bring that into being through my wishes. And they're a young marriage partner, and it took me 15, 20 years to start to get a handle on marriage and how marriage works. And with love, it can manifest quicker. Okay. I think it's really important to personally establish daily "I see beauty in you" rituals. I think some marriage educators talk about this. Develop rituals which manifest "I admire you, I appreciate you," and you manifest that in daily rituals. I think this is a really powerful way of keeping love alive. So we developed an expressive welcome home ritual, wagging bottoms or doing other expressions to say, it's you, it's you, it's you. And I really, I'm so glad you're back in my life. At least 5 times a day, a hug. We have a kitchen which is narrow, that helps, as I can walk through it and hug her every time she's there. I purposely walk through it just to get a hug. Praise a day is helpful. And especially when my wife wants to connect, I put things down. I try to be there for her. These kind of, I treasure you and I value you. I think this is really important to saying, you are beautiful to me, and I can love that. So the principle explains that give and take action generates energy, 3 types of energy. So the generation of give and take action based upon love and beauty generates energy. And of course, some of that energy manifests itself into making a life in home, but some of that energy goes into personal growth. So this energy, so this give and take action, this is like the principles of co-creation, generates energy so that you grow. So over time, through this positive interaction and negative ones, we learn and we grow. Okay. Okay, so what happens? Of course, difficulties happen in marriage. Our partner does something that infuriates us. They say something that drives us crazy. We have an argument, whatever. So what happens then? Okay, so how do we process this? How can we process this? Because we want to get back into love and beauty. We want to be in that state of wholeness and oneness, yeah? So love and beauty disappears. And at that moment, love is hard to give and appreciation is hard to find. So the way we step back into, one of the main ways we do this is step back in love and beauty, is finding meaning in the difficulty. Okay, well, if we find a reason for the difficulty, it's easier to let go of the difficulty and learn from it and grow. So we do that. That's how we do it. Okay, and we do that by using, ideally, the 5 textures of God's love, because that's how we get back into, that's how we process things properly, and that's how God processes. That's how God processes his challenges with human beings. God processes it through using his 5 textures of God's love. Yeah. Okay, so God uses his nurturing parent and has compassion. Yeah, he says, oh gosh, you come from full of humanity. You had some difficult times in your childhood. You grew up, parents grew up in war, and some of that trauma is still in your life, or you grew up under communism, or all these different things. And I understand you're traumatized. Anybody might be traumatized by that. And I can let it go because of your difficulties. Or sensible adult is there a good reason why this happened? Like, you externalize the problem. You don't blame the partner. You say, externalize it. You say, maybe there's a good reason. They're tired, they're hungry, they overworked, they're stressed, there's all kinds of, not very well at the moment. There's all kinds of reasons why your partner might not be functioning to a high level of, capability. The other method we use is just, am I being fair? I have weaknesses too. My partner, I'm upset, he messes up the bedroom and leaves his clothes all over the floor. But do I have a similar habit which drives him crazy and I'm asking him to be patient with? And if gosh, maybe I should learn to, fix my own, look at my own self and my own ways I drive him crazy before complaining about the way he drives me crazy. So we can use fairness, and sometimes you can work that out. You can say, well, I'll clean up your mess if you clean up mine, or there's all kinds of ways out of that. The creative child is saying, well, can we solve this issue? Can we find new ways to solve this problem so it doesn't happen again? Maybe we can, maybe I can learn how to ask a different way. How, my wife has a list of things to do, and she wants me to do them, but the way she does it is not a way that I respond to so easily. And so I try to teach her that if you do it this way, you'll get a much more effective response. And I try to encourage her to make a list of 5 things she'd like me to do, and a due by date, and how important it is to her out of 10, and put it behind my computer. And when I want a break, I can say, oh, I'll do one of those and just get it out of the way. And I can function with that because I'm a man. So there's lots of alternatives to the way you're doing things that might be better, and the 3 child might be able to solve that problem. And then you can look at other things like protective parent. Is there something missing from our relationship to let this happening? We ended up having a row, but over money. But maybe it's because there's some underlying cause. Maybe, for example, we just don't have planning meeting about finances, and things build up, and then when they build up, they just overwhelm us. So maybe there's something we can do something to protect ourselves to make sure that doesn't happen. So there's a whole kinds of ways we find meaning, and once we find meaning, we can say, okay, we can go forward now. I can drop this. I can learn a new habit, or I can have compassion and let it go and be patient, and then we can get back into love and beauty. And that's how we function. That's you know. So over time, you know, I I had to learn, you know, like this inside these different things, there's like 30 different ways of analyzing a difficult situation and finding one that's suitable for this, allowing me to get back into love and beauty. So, you know, John Gottman basically says, he says, couples that build lasting relationship seek to make sure that they have at least 5 positive moments of interaction for each negative. Okay. So I went through a process saying, okay, something went wrong in our relationship. My goal today is to do 5 positive things, and that will kind of wipe out, because a negative is like worth a typical negative about 3 positives, something like that. And so if I do 5, I can get back into love and beauty. So I guess, okay, something went wrong. I did something wrong, or my wife, even if my wife, and we're distant. So I'm going to get back and do those 5 things today. And by the end of the day, I was, you know, we were happy bunnies again in general. So this kind of, you know, processing. Okay. And then, of course, some things go wrong and we can't process. Some things like really hard to process, and we have to learn have to learn forgiveness. When I got married, I was very poor at this. I found it really hard to let go. I kept things too long. I lived in Finland, and and the Finnish men found it even worse. You know, general men found it like for weeks or more for if something went wrong, and it was very hard for many of them. And I had to learn. I had to develop new types of forgiveness and have a Rolodex of different methods of forgiveness. So for my own mental well-being, because I hated being dominated by something that my partner had done, you know, inappropriate. That I hated being dominated by. It's like multiplication, and I hated being dominated by that, and I wanted to like be free of that, and that then I could, you know, love again easily. So again, we can use the internal workings of the five textures of God's love. And you can just maybe they have historical trauma, probably that led to this, you know, or maybe there was a good reason, and I haven't worked it out. Fairness, you know, well, I just expect people to forgive me, and I want to be, I can forgive, or you can help ask your partner, look, you know, I was hurt by that, you know, if you do this, you know, I'll feel like I can forgive you, or something like this. Or maybe I was partly to blame, and that processing was really helpful, looking at how I interacted with this. So there's all kinds of ways to forgive using the internal workings of the 5 textures. Okay. And lastly, the last thing is the heart to keep learning, because marriage is a complex task. There's hundreds of things to learn. And you to just say, oh, I can just get through it without learning. Well, some people do, but the divorce rate today is really high. And the number of people even who don't divorce, who don't have a healthy marriage, is kind of a lot, you know. And a lot, but the knowledge is out there, and it's tragic. It's like being upset with your computer after using it for 20 years, and you don't know how to fix some basic things on it, and you haven't worked on those things, and you haven't developed yourself. And there's really good books, and it's your job to learn from what the experts say. Keep learning books, go to seminars, things like this, because this is the most important dream. This is our, you know, this is the one dream at the end of our life. I managed this. I built a lasting, loving relationship, and we built a good, and that's more important than any business you built or anything else. That's the one thing that you'll regret or not regret. But there's so much to learn, and we haven't got the best examples sometimes. And so you have to have the heart to keep learning, and to really, you know. So there was a period in our marriage where we read like 2 marriage books a year together, and we talked about it, and that gave a lot of background information, new resources to keep going on. Okay. So, okay, so you know, you might know this thing Ho'oponoponopo or something like that tradition, because this is embedded into the universe, because of this, the people in all kinds of walks of life, you study business, you have to appreciate your customer because we're serving them or giving them something and we have to appreciate them. It's just embedded into how things grow and develop and function. To give, to appreciate, to learn from challenges, to forgive and keep learning. So this Ho'oponopono says, to try to rebalance the system is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And it's a sequence people use to rebalance the system and release negative emotions and mend relationships. So it's everywhere. And if you study the marriage course, a lot of it's to do with this, how you function together and appreciate each other. Okay, so this is like model. It's a model that allows me to go, something's wrong in my relationship. What can I do to help fix that? My core value's wrong. Maybe I'm not being sensible enough. Have I been giving enough love and appreciating her recently, etc. It's not just me. If you run a business, because the principle says that human beings are always being human. And in other words, if I build any structure, it needs to look like this. Any organization or any business, it needs to have these features in it because human beings, that's how they function healthily in the world. So a company needs some nurturing, protective contracts, etc., creativity. It needs core values, and it needs, when it gives to customers, it needs to appreciate them, and when it gets some feedback and learn from the challenges, and when it makes mistakes, it sends out a present and says sorry, and it keeps learning, and this is how a healthy company works, because we're always being human. And this is because this is the internal workings of, like a picture of the internal workings of God. Okay, so the last section is this third way, so we've covered this healthy self part, and the next one we're going to look at is the 7 principles by which we achieve our goals.